Man, I swear that I'm a real one, I ain't never losing. And now I'm so caught they spin, but they don't never do shit. I'm in these streets, this shit is real, man, I ain't picking choosing. I gotta get rich before I die, I'm focused on the music. Man, I swear that I'm a real one, I ain't never losing. And now I'm so caught they spin, but they don't never do shit. I'm in these streets, this shit is real, man, I ain't picking choosing. I gotta get rich before I die.
Okay, so we're back again with another episode of Gardening Gupshup with Make Me Garden, and this is episode number 3. And this time we talk about, this time the questions are related to pest control, pest management, and basic maintenance of the garden. So let's go right into the questions. The first question: what is the difference between older and newer techniques of pest management?
Okay, first, pest management is a subject with most of the gardeners who are vexed up and left gardening have this reason in common, saying that I couldn't handle my pests or I didn't have time to handle my pests and I just left it.
Right.
And the reason why most of them leave it is because they couldn't make out the difference between the older and the new gen techniques to handle pests.
Like, what is the older?
Yeah, I'll let you know the difference. Like, pests are like human beings at the same time, and so like mosquitoes. They have adapted themselves to newer versions with time, and the older techniques now have
Don't
become
work.
obsolete
Right.
at the moment. So the older techniques, when we go back to the older techniques, they had a mix of turmeric, chili powder, could be panchgavya, cow dung, and they also panchgavya is also has cow urine in specific. So these people used to get specifically cow urine.
That stinks.
Yeah, it stinks badly. So
I've smelled.
they used to get cow urine directly, or not. They used to get direct neem cakes, the natural neem cakes,
Right.
which are not treated, and they used to mix it in water and try to apply, and it's not working ultimately. Or some people also try to approach using baking soda and all these things to handle pests.
Right.
But what I would technically say is that you should always try to have a blend. The newer techniques are quite harsh at the same time.
Like, what are they?
Like you have direct fertilizers by name, like insect killer, pesticide killer. They have different components. Every company tries to manufacture its own set of compositions and try to release it into the market. But they're very harsh on the plant and they're also harsh on you. Because if you don't clean it well while you're consuming, you are the one who's consuming those chemicals.
Right.
So always I try to say is that don't go either with highly modern techniques or highly older techniques, but try to make a blend out of it. So you should be using like a mix, like what people say, so-called ideal. The ideal mix that people say is that you should have, like you should basically start with a 5-liter water. In 5-liter water, yeah. So in a 5-liter water, you should be having close to like 2 to 3 tablespoons of panchgavya and a very little quantity of neem oil, which
Right.
is like 90% pure. Like it should be like a teaspoon, not even tablespoon. It should be half a teaspoon that should be put into it, and we should be using baking soda into it. And if possible, you can also have a small piece of neem bar which can be put inside it. And considering that the pests have modified their genes and they are more advanced than it, you can also have Vim dishwash, which is in a very little quantity into it. Vim.
Okay.
Vim dishwash.
The yellow color.
Yes.
Okay, liquid.
Yeah, you might have seen their ads
Yeah,
with
I've
lemon flavor. That sounds good. So you have to mix them up, and you have to thoroughly mix them up, and you have to get them in a spray bottle and thoroughly spray it. It's not like you're going to spray it in the air or around the plant. You have to catch each and every leaf, each and every node, each and every stem, and spray it carefully, so that you ensure this is being done for every 5 to 6 days if there are heavy pests on your plant.
Right.
And if there are light pests and you're just suspecting that they might have attacked it, so go with a lighter quantity. And you can also add a little more neem oil if the plant is already hard and steady.
Okay.
If it's a weak and very simple plant like spinach, it will burn up your entire plant.
Okay.
So go with a very lighter quantity of neem oil in the composition which I have discussed with you.
So this would be the best use of techniques, older and newer.
Newer techniques.
New
Yeah.
one put together.
Yes.
Right.
And even now, when there are ants and these all insects attacking plants, they mix chili powder and turmeric powder and put it in the soil. But technically, there's no great response to it. So you will have to get in techniques like using kerosene oil and other kind of chemicals into it, which I don't recommend personally. Though they give you results, I don't recommend you personally.
So this one is going to be really helpful for if any of you viewers are gardeners. I'm 101% sure that this will be very helpful. Anyways, let's go to the second question. So this is another common question actually I had.
Okay.
You know, when Rohit initially told that we put together our own compost, I thought that we get the source from somewhere, but then we put it together.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can I make my own compost?
Okay, so there are a lot of conceptions, misconceptions, and theories about how to make or the procedures to make a compost. It is always ideal when you're going with a compost. You should be very clear whether you just want to make a compost or you want to make a compost soil out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's remove
Wait,
soil.
what do you mean by compost and compost soil?
Compost soil is completely made from the decay matter.
Okay.
The dry and wet waste put together.
Mm-hmm.
But when it is soil, compost soil, you want to make a soil, you have to get coco peat again into the picture.
Okay.
The soil component is the coco peat and little red soil maybe
Got it.
if required. So we'll keep soil aside. So let's talk about compost. When you're trying to make compost, you can not have all kinds of biological matter into it, but you can only have few matters which can actually add to your plant. You can put other biological stuff into it, but the thing is that it's not required. It won't
Right.
add up to your plant. So you have to go with all your vegetable, fruit and herb peels. They all can go into it, and you can put rice and all these kind of items or the leftovers. In the leftovers, you can't put the waste which has oil in it.
Right.
Like you have your curry left.
Not cooked food.
Yes, yes. So if you have dal, you only have boiled dal or chana, who have this diet and all this purpose, they can put this waste into it, in which there is no oil.
Right.
If there is oil, you shouldn't be putting into this one. So all the home matter can only be put into it, or dry grass and all these kind of things can be put into it. And coming to wet waste, when you have few items like paper, like some kind of paper which is not like highly chlorinized or has kerosene over it, like newspapers can't be composted.
Okay.
Your A4 sheets
Right,
can be
right.
composted.
Okay, A4 can.
A4 can.
But it'll take a lot of time to.
Yeah, that's the reason we get together biological material and this wet waste together.
Okay.
Wet waste and biological waste have to be mixed in equal compositions.
Right.
And most of the people fail in doing it perfectly because either it is like they put up complete biological waste or they put up completely wet waste without going with proportions. So always go with 50-50.
Wet waste is going to just rot.
Yeah, it's gonna rot. And this wet waste, and we call it dry waste, like paper and all these materials which are compostable.
Okay, okay.
And here comes the picture of sustainability when we talk about this. When it is wet waste, when you're buying your product, they tell you it is compostable.
Okay.
When, for suppose you are buying a pen box, you bought a pen, then that guy says, sir, this box is compostable.
Right.
It is recyclable and compostable is different again. Recyclable has to go to a factory nearby. Compostable can be thrown right into the soil. You can compost it.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this is how your sustainable shopping should go. Like if he says your pen is sustainable, even you should clarify whether the pen is compostable or not when you're doing it. Like for suppose there are seed pens which we provide. They're compostable.
Right.
Seed pencils, they are compostable. Our tags are compostable. So there should be a certain degree where we can say that it is compostable. So put them together, compost it, and you can make it. And when you are doing this, you will have 3 times when you have to add soil. When you are actually mixing up this wet and dry waste together. On the first 5 days, after in 15 days again, and after 21 days, you will have to put soil in layers on one over another. Then you can mix it later on and you can use it.
Interesting.
It's a time taking process and it rots and smells very badly. So have a specific bin in the corner of your space anywhere.
I think passionate gardeners are the ones who are gonna go for this.
Yeah, and in the influencers, I would give a shout out to Mrs. Shilpa Reddy,
Okay.
who does it specifically in her house space. She lives in a very luxury bungalow, but she doesn't like wasting this wet and dry waste.
That's so lovely, man. That's very lovely.
Yeah. For anybody in Jubilee Hills, if they go and see her house, they'll be like, yeah, this is a classic house. But she does all organic stuff inside.
That's awesome, man. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so you all can also plan on having it, but have it in a corner. She has a corner space, so you also maintain a corner space.
Keep that in your mind if you're going for it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so coming to the third question, how do I handle the situation if there are too many bugs on the plant?
Okay, we have two options technically. One is either solve it, or if it's not, you are not able to solve it, you have to look around. If there are so many plants around, you'll have to pluck it and put it away. I know.
Put it to the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you have to safely take it away from the space or dump it
because
somewhere.
they spread very quickly.
Yeah, like recently we have been a client in Cyber Meadows, and she had too many bugs around the plant. She was helpless. We had to plug them out. In spite of they had too many broad beans on their plant. She had lot of fruiting but lot of bugs.
Yeah, when I was putting soil all over the plants, right, I could see them literally bouncing left and right.
Yeah. So yeah, so coming to this point, what you have to technically do is you should take two decisions very promptly when there are bugs in your house or plant or your garden area. You have to first ensure that if I can solve it, you have to sit on it and solve it, or not. If you feel I cannot tackle this, please take it away, because if you delay this decision, you will be unnecessarily killing all the other plants in your garden.
Right.
So these bugs are something that are very natural intruders, and also they are the destroyers of your entire crop. And you will be really sad when they don't turn up initially, but when you are actually getting fruits and they come out of it, you will feel terrible. The feeling is terrible. So before it becomes something big and you are left heartbroken when you're pulling out a completely grown plant, it's really sad. So how do you handle it? The same question one which we have answered, you can use a similar technique, but it is not the right one. So you will have to add more components which repel these bugs away. So try to also include, this is a free tip actually, you can include some plants around your good crops that smell bad.
Okay.
That smell bad, not just they don't smell bad to us at times, but in the nature they're called odor. They have a bad odor.
Right, bad odor.
Yeah.
They repel the bugs.
The bugs away.
Okay.
So usually when you have these big plantations across, like there are places like Rashtriyapati Bhavan and all these things, I have cleanly observed that when there are beautiful flowers and all these things, they ensure that there are small bushes of some bad odor plants underneath them. Though these good smelling flowers outpower them, but deep inside, this bad odor mechanism is working around.
Got it.
It repels away these plants. The good is for you, the bad is for the intruders.
Got it. Interesting. That's a nice tip.
Yeah. So, but if you feel that if I have a bad smelling plant, go ahead, take the challenge, try to kill the bugs or try to pull out the plant. That's my better way. Because we should think about maximum good.
Got it. Okay. So now going to the fourth question. How often should I top up or change my gardening soil or soil mix?
It's totally on your understanding, man. Like there are farmers who have hundreds of acres of land under their name and their power, but these people don't change their soil. They don't top up quite frequently because they have higher understanding.
Okay,
of
before we go in, what exactly is top up?
top up is adding nutrients.
Okay.
Adding nutrients or soil, something that is required for the plant,
Right.
that only you understand because you started it. First is your understanding about your entire process, man. Like you have to know whether you should know what you have put in. If for suppose, let me say, there are only few clients in our entire clientele who have actually taken services from us,
Right.
but abruptly call us to come and solve their problems, which we have not started. So they don't have an idea of what their previous gardener has done to their whole crop. or what he has added in them, and they put that responsibility on us.
Right.
So you see there's a complete mismatch in the scene. So anytime when somebody is putting something into it, please ensure, because this is your crop, what you have to always look into it is the composition.
Right.
Whenever people come down to you, if he says it's a potting mixture that has like 90 to 23 components, chalo, go ahead. Because we know that out of 19 components, there are 5 to 6 which stand out. We can manage with them. But when somebody says that there are only 3 to 4 in specific, we have made it, then please make sure that what components he has put into it, because we'll try to match it up or try to
Right.
understand that, okay, if you water it daily, for suppose you're watering your plant daily, there's easy loss of nutrients
True.
because they drain up. We don't know water in, water out. So practically there is nothing like how we have to top up and stuff. You have to take a voluntary action every time. Like for every 3 months, 2 months, you will have to dig the soil in the top layer
Mhm.
and try to put up some nutrients which you feel they are right. Like you can put up sterlite, bone meal, and you can put up like we have a chill powder, and you can try to put up some organic components like panchgavya. You can top up your wish, dry cow dung.
We did this for our previous client, right?
Yeah, we did it for her.
We mixed up the soil and then we put in nutrients.
Yes, this is our first kind of thing, and there were too many bugs in her soil. That is something that we couldn't tolerate. There were eggs of bugs too.
God damn. It was just
Wow.
scenic.
Scenic.
Beautiful or not, I let you imagine that.
Horror only.
Okay, so moving on to the fifth question. How do I know whether my plant is getting the right amount of nutrition?
Okay, this is a good question. Technically.
This is definitely a question which anyone who's growing any kind of plant would have.
Okay, the thing is that first you should be ideally knowing, like it's technically impossible for everybody who's starting up right now.
Mhm.
You should be knowing the color pigments of the leaves, technically. Like you have spinach, it is light green, whereas there is coriander, it is dark green. You should have a clear distinction between which leaf has which color pigments.
Mhm.
That is the first indicator.
But why? Like, how does that indicate?
Yeah, if that is not in that color or some in another color,
Mhm.
you can understand whether it is having an overdose of nutrients or underdose of nutrients.
Okay.
Yeah, like if for suppose you are getting your lemongrass is usually in light green. When it is in too much of yellowish color, it means that you are not watering it or not giving it nutrients, or you are growing it in a specific nutrient. So then it turns its colors totally.
Mhm.
And even for suppose when there are brinjals are supposed to be in proper light violet color.
Okay.
But when you see too much of violet, it means it's an hybrid.
Okay, they
Yeah.
mix something.
Yeah. And when it turns something like reddish in color, not violet, it means it is
Undernourished.
undernourished. So that's the way you try to identify it. But most of the times it is that your nutrients will drain, however, because you are watering it every day, you're pampering your plants every day. So make sure, with relevance to the previous question, make sure that you are topping up responsibly. Either you buy a potting mixture or something, and for every 20 or 30 days, or even for when you have done it in a big scale, then for every 2 months or something, kindly replace the topsoil with some good nutrients.
Right.
At least which have like 15 to 18 varieties of different items getting together,
Mhm.
and it will be good. And always, as we have told you before also, always have a loose and well conditioned soil. When you're touching a soil, you should feel like you're catching some good conditioner in hand. It should feel so good when you're touching, and it shouldn't be hard or rocky or something.
Got it.
So that's it. It's a good way to understand, but you should have some keen sense of knowledge when you're trying to know it is undernourished or overnourished.
The plants over there are perfectly nourished because it caught my eye when you told me about the color of the leaf. Spinach, right?
Ah, spinach.
They look so beautiful, man, looking from here. I'll probably upload that picture too, but they look beautiful.
Yeah.
So-
almost Rajesh has his eye on it. He's planning to consume them very soon.
Nizangana.
He's like, I want to taste it, but it is still.
Hey, I'm going to take it home too, man.
done.
Anyone from MMG who's watching this, let us know We'll get it cooked and we'll have a lunch planned up actually.
That's a good idea.
That'll be a nice idea.
And we can give the catering contract to Mamu.
Definitely we can we can do that.
Yeah, that works.
So that is all for this week's episode of Gardening Upshop with Make Me Garden. We'll catch you again really soon.